And instead of cleaning it up, they don't touch them. They leave them. And we end up with these massive fires that we're paying hundreds of billions of dollars for.
And you have all that water that could be used, or the land would be damp. And you'd stop many of these horrible fires.
Much later.
I saw the fire engine pull up this afternoon. A fire captain have one of his firefighters attach a hose to a hydrant, and that hose didn't fill up.
Do you owe citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning?
Trump is now weighing in on the horrific fires in Los Angeles County, and he's laying the blame on California's Democratic governor.
Usually what happens is that you reach out to the leaders of the state, say good things about them. Now is usually not the time for politics.
President-elect chose to attack you, blame you for this. One can't even respond to it.
He does kind of see the federal government and the budget and the monies as his own, as to dole out as he wishes to his friends. And so I think that's the real question going forward. But it is sort of sad that this is the same president we're getting again, that there are no lessons learned. There's no sense that Californians are Americans. He doesn't have any sort of empathy and understanding about, over what these folks are going through.
His own aides say they had to convince him that there were votes there for him.
Well, going into the second administration, his judgment is way worse. I mean, looking at just the cabinet picks.
You can't show me one single emergency disaster declaration that he rejected because he thought a governor was a bozo. He delivered for Puerto Rico. He delivered for every place that was hit by disaster.
Breaking news. It has been confirmed. Trump is evil. Please, for your own sake, ignore the situation going on right now, and please refrain from questioning how the fires could have gotten this bad.
We're doing a lot of doom casting about what Donald Trump may or may not do, but there doesn't seem to be much accountability for what the current people in charge didn't do that led to these issues, which I think the people of California should be asking those questions.
I think part of the issue is that there's a desire to cast blame when a natural disaster happens, and we don't actually know what caused this fire.
Please refrain from thinking about who should be held accountable for the $17 million reduction from firefighting budgets in a state that faces wildfires every year. Please refrain from thinking about policies that might have left firefighters without water to combat these flames.
Usually what happens, as we all know, when there is a national and natural disaster, is that you reach out to the leaders of the state, you offer them public support and assistance, you say good things about them. Now is usually not the time for politics. But as we all know, we have lived through this once. That is not usually how Donald Trump operates.
Definitely avoid asking judgmental, offensive questions, such as, why is the mayor of LA in Africa? Or why are there no spaces in the shelters? Or where is all the crisis funding gone? Or why are there firefighters using handbags to throw water? Or were there enough preventative measures taken? It's offensive, okay? Do you really want to be that person?
I hate to even ask this question, but the president-elect chose to attack you, blame you for this.
One can't even respond to it. I mean, it's people are literally fleeing. People have lost their lives. Kids lost their schools. Families completely torn asunder. Churches burned down. This guy wanted to politicize it. I have a lot of thoughts, and I know what I want to say. I won't. I stood next to a president of the United States of America today, and I was proud to be with Joe Biden, and he had the backs of every single person in this community. He didn't play politics.
Please swiftly redirect your attention to Trump and how he will be the most dangerous president in the history of all time.
The incoming president, I hate to say it, but he has a history of threatening to not fund fire relief.
I would feel more comfortable if we decided to send additional resources to FEMA now before he is sworn into office. I can tell you one thing for sure, is that California will not have to worry if we get this done before Trump is in office. And if we wait, then I don't know what's going to happen.
Okay. And do not bring up the fact that he was president already and things were actually pretty good until a virus was released from an American-funded lab coming up to re-election time, because I don't want to talk about that.
We actually know how this guy is going to govern. He was president for 4 years. He didn't cut off funding. He didn't look at people whose homes were burned down and say, forget about it. You had a Biden sign in your yard, so we're just going to pass on by your home. Those things did happen in the last administration, probably in a narrow way. But I got to tell you, Donald Trump will be there to help out people in California. He
Let me
was there
just-
4 years ago. He'll be there now.
I'm just going to read one quote. We have several of them from his time in office, but just one as it relates to this. This is Kevin Carroll, a former Homeland Security official. Trump absolutely didn't want to give aid to California or Puerto Rico purely for partisan politics.
Please, during this time, refrain from watching any of the video evidence over the last 6 years where Trump repeatedly warned Gavin Newsom about the management and prevention practices in LA.
It's cleaned out and protected. Got to take care of the floors, the floors of the forests, very important. I was with the president of Finland and he said, we have a much different, we're a forest nation. He called it a forest nation. And they spend a lot of time on raking and cleaning and doing things and they don't have any problem. It's a disgraceful thing. Old trees are sitting there rotting and dry. And instead of cleaning it up, they don't touch them. They leave them. And we end up with these massive fires that we're paying hundreds of billions of dollars to fix, and the destruction is incredible. And they don't want to clean up their forests because they have environmental problems in cleaning it up. It should be the opposite, because you're going to lose your forests. You're losing them. I'm speaking now for the people of California. They don't want to see this happen. They're getting destroyed.
I said, so do you have a drought? No, we don't have a drought. We have the water is cut off upstate, up in the north. You know that? And the water, in order to protect a certain little tiny fish called the smelt, they send millions and millions of gallons of water out to the Pacific Ocean, way up north. The reason you have no water is because Gavin Newsom didn't want to do it. So you have millions of gallons of water pouring down from the north with the snow caps in Canada and all pouring down. And they have essentially a very large faucet. And you turn the faucet, and it takes 1 day to turn it. It's massive. It's as big as the wall of that building right there behind you. And you turn that, and all of that water goes aimlessly into the Pacific. And if they turned it back, all of that water would come right down here and right into Los Angeles. And all those fields that are right now barren, the farmers would have all the water they needed. And you could revert water up into the hills where you have all the dead forests, where the forests are so brittle. Because no place is like California. I go to Austria. The head of Austria tells me, we have trees that are much more flammable than what you have in California. We never have forest fires because they maintain their forests.
I love the farmers. They're great. They're the greatest. And by the way, they're getting killed right now.
They are.
They're getting killed because of this stupid administration. But so I see this, and I said, you got to be kidding. I said, you mean you have water? And I looked at it. It's like a valve in your sink, except it's massive. The thing's 5 times taller than your ceiling.
Did you know the center of California was a giant lake?
They have so much water.
You ever see what it looked like before they rerouted it?
I never saw that, no.
The center of California, what was it, 200 years ago? How long ago did they do that, Jamie? The center of California had a fucking enormous lake in the middle of California.
So they dumped it into the Pacific.
Who knows what they did? But whatever foolishness that they did led to the situation that they're in now.
Think of those dry forests that burned down all over the
Tulare Lake, or Tachi Lake. It's a freshwater lake in the southern San Joaquin Valley, United States. Historically, Tulare Lake was one of the largest freshwater lakes west of the Mississippi. Show a photo of what it looked like back then.
It's a great system.
So that's what it looked like. Look at that image. Now, go to the one on the third from the right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was an enormous lake in the middle of California. Imagine that.
That'd be much more valuable property.
How crazy is that? But how crazy is that's what it used to look like? And human beings screwed that up.
No, they let it go into the Pacific, and then they.
I don't know what they did. What did they do? How did it go missing?
They said they drained it in '83.
Yeah, they drained it.
1983. Oh my God.
It went dry a handful of times.
Oh, it went dry a handful of times. Well, lakes do go dry, but that's a big one.
But think of
it's a big one to go
you
dry.
Could have all of the water you need. There's a case with the environment. They're not allowed to rake their forests because you're not allowed to touch it. When a tree falls down, after 18 months, it becomes very dry. It's like, like real firewood. It's bad. A tree that's up, these are all things I learned the hard way, the easy way. But when a tree is up, it sucks water. It's wet. I went to they had a couple of horrible forest fires in California, and I said, you had a lot of trees standing. Yes, they were healthy trees, sir. I said, with this intense heat, that you could see they were charred a little bit on the bottom, but they were going to be all right because they're soaking wet because they suck up the water, right? But when they fall,
Right.
They're like, it's like lighting a match.
Instead, please redirect your attention, anger, fear, and upset to this short, out of context clip of this sentence Trump once said at a rally.
Incoming president, I hate to say it, but he has a history of threatening to not fund fire relief, specifically to California. Let me just play what President Trump said. This was just in October about actually fires in California.
We're going to take care of our farmers. We're going to take care of your water situation. And we'll force it down his throat. And we'll say, Gavin, if you don't do it, we're not giving you any of that fire money that we send you all the time for all the forest fires that you have.
Yes, be very afraid of the evil dictator who's about to come into power. And ignore this clip of Obama chatting jovially with the evil dictator just today. If you do see it, let your redirected fear, anger, and hatred towards Trump combine into a cognitive dissonance that washes over your brain. Don't question how those same leaders repeatedly calling Trump the next Hitler who must be stopped can also cheerfully congratulate him, certify his results, and say, welcome back to the presidency. It's probably for the best that you avoid thinking about this too much, really. Thinking is what creates racism and sexism and all those other evil things that Trump single-handedly unleashed on society to run so rampant as they do today. Now we're forced to make everything about people's race, gender, and sexuality in order to make people stop judging others on race, gender, and sexuality. And it's all Trump's fault.
A 3-year strategic plan to increase diversity.
People ask me, well, what number are you looking for? I say, I'm not looking for a number. It's never enough.
Out of 3,300 city firefighters, only 115 are women right now. She's already looking at ways to change that. She's quick to point out that doing so has a greater purpose, attracting the best and brightest for the job.
They feel included, they feel valued, and they feel part of a cohesive team.
The chief also checks another box when it comes to inclusivity and diversity at this department. She's a proud member of the LGBTQ community.
But you know what? Thinking is exhausting. Why don't you just sit back, be afraid, and let the government handle it? You can trust the government. If you'd like any more information about how you can trust us with the things that matter, just go to URL.